Today we have a privilege and honor to visit informally here with an American ex-prisoner of war. His home is out in Tioga, North Dakota, about halfway between Minot and Williston. His name is Arnold Postovitz, and that has a Russian background, Russian name. And today we're going to find out all about him and how he won the war and what he's doing now and what his life was like and so on. So, Arnold, you can tell us a little bit about your distant relatives. They come from the Ukraine, you tell me. Could you tell me a little more of that, if you know?
Well, I don't really know too much about their background at all.
Was that a farming country that you come from?
Oh yes, that was a farming country. Actually, my dad was about 3 months old when he came across, and my mother was born here in North Dakota. Yeah. And my grandparents settled in the Butte area and the Ryder area.
And were they married then, or were they, I suppose, or did they get married later after?
Well, my folks got married later on.
Yeah, but I was thinking of your grandparents. Were they married when they settled over there by Butte and so on?
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were all married.
Now there were a lot of Russians and Ukrainians around that area, weren't there?
Quite a few. Yeah, there was quite a few there. And my mother and dad got married. They moved to the Plaza area. Dad rented 2 quarters.
Now, where's Plaza come from Minot, we'll say?
Northeast of Minot, about 40 miles.
Northeast of Minot?
Southeast of Minot.
Southeast, yeah. Okay.
I meant to say, yeah.
Yeah. You rented 2 quarters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dad, of course, he was farming the horses. Most everybody then was farming the horses. And so my formative years were in what they called the dirty 30s.
Sure.
When the grasshoppers were so thick they would just about blot out the sun. Yeah. And gophers and jackrabbits.
Do you have get much of a crop then on that those 2 quarters, or?
Well, nobody got any crop.
No.
I mean, that was just.
Yeah. Now you were in the grade school and high school then when you lived on the farm there. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I went to Plaza for 12 years, grade school and high school.
How many were in your graduating class at Plaza when you graduated?
16.
16. Well, it's a pretty good sized school then.
Oh yeah, we had about 200 in the whole school.
What did you do after you left? After you graduated from high school, did you stay
I
on the
graduated
farm?
from high school, then I went to Grand Forks at the UND. The government had a program then for kids that. No, nobody had any money then, so.
How many were there in that program then here at the university? I mean, you were there, and
there was
or two, or
there were 3 of us from Plaza, and I suppose that in the dorm where we stayed, there must have been, I suppose 30 guys.
And they were on the government payroll. How much did you get? How much money did you get?
We got $8.
$8.
$8 cash and our meals then, of course.
Yeah. And then you worked on the campus here.
Right, yeah.
How long were you here in that project?
Just 7 months.
7 months.
7 months.
Then what happened?
Well, then I went back home to the farm and helped Dad with the Springs work. And that summer, one of my schoolmates and I decided we would like to fly. We wanted to be aviators. So we went to Minot to the recruiter. And he said, "Yes, sir, you boys can fly." And after about a week, we were sent down to Bismarck for Fort Lincoln for a physical. And of course, we passed, and it was those days that everybody passed.
Sure.
And but they said, well, we can't get you into Air Force right away, but we have an opening at Spokane, Washington, in the field artillery or the infantry. That's at Vancouver Barracks, Washington. Well, we opted for the artillery then. But we found out we couldn't, no openings in artillery either, so it was infantry. They said, take it or leave it, so we decided we'd try it. So we got sworn in. They put us on a train, and we got to Vancouver Barracks. That was in July.
Where's that from Seattle? You remember where that was?
It's right across the river from Portland. Portland's on one side of the river, and Vancouver's on the other side of the river.
I see. That's Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portland,
And Vancouver's on the other, I see.
Yeah.
Out of the Columbia River.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were on the Washington side.
Yeah.
So we had a little, well, they didn't have recruit training like the basic training like they did later on. We had a little training, and I was assigned to a mortar squad.
Infantry company.
In the infantry company. This is the 7th Infantry of the 3rd Division. And first thing we did when we got there was go on maneuvers. They had every summer they had a big maneuver. They took us out in the trees and in the clearing, and made a line across the clearing and said, this is water on this side and land on the other side. And we'd run up to this line like we came off a boat and deploy. So they were practicing boat landings in 1940 yet.
In this field or in this area, yeah.
Yeah. So this is
Now, how long were you there at that infantry base?
well, we stayed at Vancouver. We got there in July 1940, and in January 41 we moved to Fort Lewis.
That was a big base.
That was a big base.
Yeah.
And then we'd go out on Puget Sound, and there
What did you do there at that base?
Pardon?
At Fort Lewis, what did you do there? What kind of, were you in the infantry, still stayed in the
Oh,
infantry?
yes. I was in the service 5 years, and I never left the infantry.
No, I see, okay.
So there we really got to
Yeah.
practice boat landings. They'd take us out in the sound in boats, and then we'd actually hit the beach and
How many were there on that boat, amphibious boat? Then?
oh,
Quite a few.
they were just small boats. I suppose
see.
there was probably a dozen of us
I
guys
see.
in a.
They'd run up to the beach, and then you jump
Yeah,
off and
yeah.
deploy. And, yeah.
And,
How long were you there?
well, we stayed at Fort Lewis, I think, till just about a year.
Oh. Well, the war started then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That December, then
Yeah.
well,
what happened to the war? How did you know that the war started, or how did you find that out? That December 7th. You remember that date?
Oh yes. I was on pass in Tacoma,
I see.
and of course the word was out to everybody get back to base. And so I caught my bus, and when I got to the base, I thought maybe the Japanese were there already.
I see.
Boy, everything goes in a stir.
All kinds of excitement.
And I was driving a company truck then, so first thing we had to do was load it up with ammunition, and then I think they packed some kitchen equipment on top of that, and we moved out in the woods. And we stayed out there for about 2 weeks.
You with that truck and that
Yeah,
ammunition and
yeah.
food, yeah. That's part of the infantry now.
This is all infantry.
Yeah.
Then we moved back to, they moved us back to the barracks at the post itself. And of course everything was blacked out, the windows are all covered, no lights any place, and like every other place.
Did they have an airfield there at Fort Lewis when you were there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
McCord Field is close
Yeah.
there. And Then I suppose about about a year later, we actually embarked on regular ships and left, that was out of Olympia, and went all the way down the coast past San Diego, and we made a landing down there.
It's part of your training.
Part of the training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, down there was desert,
Sure.
pretty much desert, so we had a lot of desert training.
Now, did you stay down there very long, or just trained and then?
Well, we stayed there, yeah, we must have stayed there for, I suppose, 6-7 months.
Oh.
Then
You
they-
don't remember just where you were when you went down to San Diego? Did you go inland quite a ways? You don't
Well,
remember places like Blythe or Palm Beach, Palm Springs, or anything like
no,
that? those
it's,
names?
well, Fort Ord is down there.
Yeah, Fort-
After we had made our so-called invasion, and stayed out there in the desert, then they shipped us back to Fort Ord, or that was right close there.
Yeah. Now, at Fort Ord, did you do more training then, or
Oh yeah, that is,
getting ready for overseas?
yeah, right. Then in September they packed us up on troop trains and took us clear across the United States to Camp Pickett in Virginia.
Now, what year was this? 1943?
2.
42.
Yeah.
That's about a year after the war started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were there for a while, and we got ready to go to North Africa.
I see.
Of course, we didn't know where we were going, but
No.
we were ready for an invasion. We had our vehicles all waterproofed, and my vehicle got right in very bottom hold
Of the ship.
of the ship.
Did this ship carry trucks and men, or was it
Yeah, these ships, the ship I was on was a small ship. It just carried a battalion.
a Liberty ship, maybe?
Well, it wasn't. They didn't
No.
really have Liberty ships.
No.
It is the USS Thomas Jefferson,
I see.
and it carried a battalion of men.
I see.
That's four rifle companies and headquarters company,
Yeah.
and we had one little light tank, a World War I little light tank.
Oh, yeah, I
with us.
know they had those. Yeah.
And it took us 3 weeks to get over to Africa. They took their zigzag courses and all this and that, and I think they were just trying to, well, they didn't want the enemy to know that we were coming, and we went up towards England. We got within sight of England, then we went down towards Africa. And that was 8th of November,
Of 42.
pardon, of 42.
Yeah, 8th of November. And you went off, you arrived in North Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The troops got off. Of course, my truck was down the bottom, so I didn't get off for 3 days.
I see.
I sat on this ship, and
What kind of food did you have on the ship?
well, that was fine. It was,
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah,
they fed us real well.
I see. Yeah.
And while I was waiting for them to get down to my truck, we lost about 3 ships there to submarines. They were torpedoed
In that area?
in that area. So I was happy when we finally got down, so I get that truck of mine on a barge, and they took us into shore. That was, we landed at Fidela, and 3 days later we were in Casablanca. And that's about all the fighting that we did there in Africa.
Well, that Casablanca, that was in Morocco, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
That was in
Now,
Morocco.
how far away from your landing point was that to Casablanca? Did you have to go quite a ways?
Oh, yeah, well, it's about 20 miles, I suppose. It was,
And you encountered Germans in that area?
well, the French were resisting a little bit too.
Yeah.
They didn't know which side
Yeah.
they were on.
Yeah, Morocco was French, of course. Okay, go
That's
ahead.
French Morocco, yeah. And so, and after we got control of Casablanca, then we stayed there for quite a while. And I had just a half-ton truck I was driving, so I drove a lot of night patrols, guards,
Out in the country around Casablanca.
just around. And,
What rank were you then?
I was a PFC,
yeah.
private first class.
Oh, yeah, well, that's pretty good.
And of course, there, you drive at no lights.
Sure. Did you have the little tiny things that they stuck on your fender? Or little lights, like a candle almost.
Just about. This is a little white line on the back and a little red line on the front.
Yeah.
That's all there was. Anyhow, I was just pretty rugged in itself there because.
Were you protecting Casablanca then? Was that your object, or what was your object?
Yeah, that.
How long did you stay there in that area?
Oh, I suppose we stayed there.
Several months, or?
Oh yeah. It was.
Then what happened?
Well, then we started training. I mean, we thought we were training in the United States,
Yeah.
but that was nothing to compare to what we did over there.
Training.
Training, yeah.
Yeah. Was that in the sand, in the desert, kind of, or?
Yeah, it was. It was pretty much kind of farming country we
Yeah.
were. We never really were out in the desert because
I see. Yeah.
the desert is further south, and then
Yeah. Well, how long did you? What happened after your training period then?
well, we kept moving up the coast towards Tunis. It'd be northern Africa. Then we
Yeah.
were kind of.
That's on the coast, Mediterranean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we got ready and we were getting ready then to invade Sicily.
Oh, I see. That's across the Mediterranean in part of
Right.
Italy there, moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By that time, I had quit driving truck, and I was back with my mortar squad again. And that was a tough landing. I mean, we had a lot of resistance on the beach there.
When you're landing in Sicily now.
Sicily, yeah.
Yeah. You loaded up everything in Africa, and then
Right.
went across. Did you
Yeah.
go on these landing craft?
Yeah, we had a LCI. That's Landing Craft Infantry, and they're not. They're in kind of in the shape of a boat, and then they have two little ramps that come down, and then we debark on each side.
Did they cross the whole Mediterranean on that? Mm-hmm. I see. Was
Yeah.
that a rough crossing, wasn't it? Or?
Yeah, it was. Anyway, it was I can remember we were coming in, and all of a sudden I could see kind of little pinpoints along one side of the ship, and the paint was flying in there, and the machine gunners were zeroed in on us.
Oh, gee.
And
That is the Germans now,
it was Germans
in Sicily.
in Sicily, and we got up on top deck then to get off, and I see one of the gunners was hanging in a 50 caliber machine gun, and he was a black boy. I think he was from the kitchen. He was up there manning the gun, and I just got off my ramp, and some of the bullets there must have hit the cables or something, because the ramp fell off, and a bunch of guys fell in the water. We had to drag them out of the water, but we got out ashore.
Were there any guys killed then in that landing craft?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of killed. I can't tell you exact numbers.
No, but in your ship there was how many of these landing craft did they have then?
Oh, there was. The one I was on just carried one company.
That by a couple hundred men though. Was it?
Yeah, about 200 men. So there'd have to be how many? There was, I think, 2 battalions landed first day. So there was many ships, and then all the tanks and all that stuff.
Did you get on shore?
Oh yeah, yeah. We got on shore. And we got a little foothold there, and then it was pretty much just Germans who just had rear guard action there. They were trying to get out. So actually, after a while, it ended up we just had all we could do to catch them.
I see. Oh, they were going across that island then?
Yeah, they were going to the north there.
Yeah.
And we, well, in 3 days there, we walked 90 miles.
You did. Well, that island is much more bigger than that, is it? 90 miles? That's almost all the way across, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's
than
quite big, yeah. It's quite big.
But it's close to Italy, isn't it?
Right, right.
How many miles apart is that?
I don't know, just across, what is it, the Straits of Messina, I think they call it there.
Yeah.
But we finally got up to the northwest coast of Sicily. That's Palermo was,
Yeah.
and we were the first ones in that town. And then the other outfits were going further east and so on. So that was pretty much the end of our fighting there in Sicily, and then we moved over to Messina to get ready to.
Is that on Sicily or is
Yeah, this is in Sicily. Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting ready to go on to the country of Italy itself, yeah.
On to Italy, yeah. But we didn't make the initial landing there. We were about I think it is, well, just a few hours, D plus 10 hours.
Yeah.
So the beach was pretty well
Taken by
established
the time,
by the time we got there.
Did you lose many men getting a beachhead on Italy
No,
from
no,
Sicily?
No, it was pretty well established when we got
I
there.
see. What happened then when you got into Italy there?
Well, then,
War started, huh?
well, well, I mean, we had been in war all through Sicily. That was not only with the Germans, but the heat and it was hot there. Well, anyway, we got to Italy then, and then of course, I mean, then the fighting really started. I guess, one thing about Sicily, I think it's probably one of my worst moments of the whole war. We were going so fast, we lost communications with our artillery, and I suppose that morning they were supposed to lay a barrage on this hill, and we were there.
You were on the hill.
We were on the hill, and so our own artillery, just by the time we got them stopped, they had really raised Cain with us.
Killed some of them?
Oh yeah, I was in this mortar squad, and of course, our everything is pretty heavy there. So we found a mule, 2 mules. We had them packed up with ammunition and stuff, and I used to go up every morning then and kind of get the mules ready. And
were those mules with you from the United States? Or
no,
you captured them.
We found them over there. Yeah.
Found them there.
Yeah. And well, like I said, I used to go up there and get these mules ready. Well, that morning for some reason, I sent 2 of my squad up there to get them ready, and then this artillery started. And what lasted, I don't know, I suppose half an hour, maybe. It is.
Was that American artillery now?
American artillery, yeah.
It wasn't ship artillery.
No, it is.
Guns,
Yeah.
ground, yeah.
It is field artillery.
Field artillery.
So after they finally got them stopped, I went up there to look for my boys, and couldn't hardly tell them from the mules. I mean, everything
Everything was torn
everything
apart.
was blowing up.
Everything was.
Yeah,
See?
they were.
Mules were killed too then,
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's just
and the men were killed.
yeah,
Were there quite a few men killed then?
quite a few. Yeah, I don't remember the.
What happened when they were killed that way? Did you bury them, or did someone else bury them, or take their
Well,
dog tags, or what
I
happened?
don't know. We just whatever was left, they were just covered up there, and then.
Yeah.
Well, then of course the medics are there. Of course they can't do anything for anything like that.
No,
but,
no.
But they have details and they'll come in
I
afterwards.
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you, what kind of food did you have now during this area, during this time? Did
Well, we
pretty good food from the Army have their field kitchens and so on functioning?
we didn't see our field kitchens very
Oh.
very seldom. We had well, start with we had 1918 sea rations,
1918.
right?
I never heard of those.
Well, you're glad you didn't.
Yeah, I see. What in the world would they be anyway in 19?
Well, they had 3 different kinds. They had one can was meat and beans, and one can of vegetable stew, and one can of hash,
I see.
and then one can of biscuits. They were real hard biscuits.
Well, they were 20, 30 years old.
Yeah, they were.
You guys ate them.
Well, you had to.
Yeah.
No, we got very very little hot food at
No.
that time. It was whatever we could.
What did you think of how the war was going then when you got there? I mean, you were in these battles and seemed to be winning and so on, but
Well, I mean, so far we had
Yeah.
been.
you were going up, yeah.
Yeah, we were running
Did
them
you
out.
plan on going up all the way up into Italy then, or what was your plan, we'll say, or did the generals say anything?
Well, to be honest with you, I never did know the general plan. I mean,
No,
you're
no.
just an enlisted man. You don't.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Get-
I
get
realize
too much.
that, yeah.
And,
But now, when you went in there as infantryman, did you have the support of trucks carrying the ammunition and tents
oh yeah,
and so on? You
yeah,
had-
they had that was the quartermaster.
yeah.
Yeah, they hauled the supplies and stuff, and then.
How was your health now? Had you lost weight or gained weight or?
Well, we
How
were
were your
young and
feet?
tough. I mean,
Yeah.
none of us are too fat. I'll tell you that.
No.
But
I was
Wait,
talking with one ex-POW. He was in that area, you know, and he had a lot of trouble with his feet. I can't remember which one it was, but he had, water and he had boils and his feet more or less played
yeah,
out on him.
yeah. Well, in Sicily it was so hot and dry that was outside of
Yeah.
just wear and tear. It was-
Yeah.
But after we got in Italy, then of course that was getting on towards winter, and there's
Yeah.
rain all the time, and then our feet were wet all the time,
Yeah.
and a lot of us, including me, really suffered with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I had-
Did you have much sickness that was indirectly from the war? I mean,
Well-
pneumonia and typhoid, or
No, there was once in a while a dysentery would break out. I mean, not just on account of flies
Yeah.
and stuff there. It is, but otherwise they were.
how about your officers? What do you think about those guys? Did they treat you pretty well, your officers and so on, or were they about in the same position you were, like your second lieutenants and captains and majors and so on?
Well, they were in the same predicament we were.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
if we walked, they walked.
Yeah. Did they treat you pretty good? I mean, was there much difference in rank, we'll say, when you were out there?
Not really. I mean,
You had to have some, of course.
well, yeah. I mean, we respected them as
Yeah.
officers,
Yeah.
and but it was.
But they respected you too. I mean.
Oh yeah. There was. I remember one officer there was, of course, was walking there. Well, some of this training we were supposed to do 5 miles an hour, and for me, long-legged, that's as fast as I can walk
Yeah,
without
that's pretty fast.
without running.
Yeah.
And this poor little officer, he wasn't too tall.
No.
He had to run.
Yeah.
But he stayed with it.
Yeah.
Oh, they came. We had some just perfect officers, a lot of them. And
Yeah. How were the men that you worked in this infantry unit? How did you feel towards those men? Were they quite sociable and protected one another? And,
you bet,
Yeah.
you bet. That's see, we had been together
Yeah,
2.5 years before we went overseas.
sure.
So, I mean, we were just, our company
Yep.
was, I knew everybody, and,
Well, it must have been a shock then when one of them was killed or something.
oh,
that
yeah.
You knew.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then that's, yeah, it was. I mean, I had a lot of bad dreams about them guys. I used to dream that that I'd go looking for them.
I see. After you got back to the States, or well, during the war?
Yeah, no, afterwards.
Yeah.
I'd always go looking for them, and then, once in a while it comes back a little bit, but then
Yeah.
I go looking for them, but I know I'm not going to find them.
I see. In your dream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
How is your, well, I shouldn't ask you now, maybe later on I'll ask you how your health has been after the war, but let's get back to Italy there, and you're in this infantry company, battalion and regiment and so on,
yeah.
and you're moving north
North, right.
against the Germans.
Against the
And
Germans.
how is that progressing? I mean, I realize now the weather is bad, the food is not best.
It was going. It was getting tougher and tougher, and then like you say, the weather.
Yeah.
Right around Christmas time, we got to a place called Casino, which is a big monastery top of a hill.
That's where the
a
monastery is on top of that mountain.
Mountain.
Yeah, that famous
Yeah.
landmark.
Right, and the Germans were using that for protection and then observation because they could see all over.
Yeah.
So we got stalled there.
Now, where's that from Rome? That Mount Casino? Or
That's south of Rome yet.
it's south of Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they decided we'd make another beach landing.
Oh, to skip up the coast.
So
then?
they took us around, and we got behind them, and we landed at Anzio.
Behind the Germans.
Right.
On which side of Italy is this now?
This is on the west side.
On the west side. Okay.
Yeah. So we did that, and we caught them completely by surprise. There was nothing on the beach. And we got in about 10 miles. And that's about all this beach head was. It was probably about 10 by 10.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that must have worried Hitler or somebody, because then they really sent his crack troops down there. He wanted to get rid of us.
I see.
He's going to push us back.
That's his unit now that had gone behind the Germans.
Right.
Yeah. What about the Italian army? I should maybe ask. Did you run into that? Were they separate from the Germans?
Yeah, but
Or
they capitulated pretty early.
I see. They
didn't,
were not a factor.
I mean, you didn't really worry too much about the Italians.
Okay, let's hear about the Germans now that we're going to drive you out of the.
Well, they started. We run into them, and we couldn't get through them. So they decided they would move back. There was a canal there. It was an irrigation ditch or drainage ditches or something. This is a big canal.
Yeah.
They decided they'd move back there, but they left a battalion from each company on the front line there.
The Americans now.
Yeah, to act as decoys.
Sure.
So we stayed there. I got left up there, and we stayed there 3 days. Then the Germans launched an attack, and they just overran us. That's when I got captured.
That's that unit that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many did they capture then that day? Or
Out of my the group that I was in, there must have been about a dozen.
that they captured? The
Yeah.
Germans did. How did they treat you when they captured you there?
Well, see, when they started through there, we just scattered. I mean,
You
we
were on
just-
your own.
Yeah, took off because that was the deal.
Yeah.
And then the next, well, they treated me pretty good. I don't know, I was going down this ditch, and there was an approach over it. There was a culvert in there, but I couldn't get through it. So I crawled up on this approach and looked around, and I didn't see anybody. And I was just went over the thing, and all of a sudden there was six Germans there with their little machine guns, burp guns we called them,
Yeah.
looking at me.
That's on this road now.
Pardon?
That's on this where you're trying to get.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the war was over then.
that's what they told me.
Yeah.
So
Now, how many? They picked up you there. Did they pick up any others then?
not right at the time.
Not right at the time. What'd they do with you then when they picked you up?
Well, it took us back a little ways well, there was hills there and stuff, and they had a bunch of caves in these hills that they used for field hospitals, or not field hospital, but it's just where they took their wounded back.
I see.
They just had straw laying around on the floor and stuff, and they started out, they was wanted me to help carry stretchers and stuff, and any time somebody moaned or something, they'd tell me to, I guess they were telling me to, be careful or something like that. So finally, when I got to sit down, I just pretended like I was all played out, and so then they let me stay there, and they let me lay down there.
In the cave kind of.
Yeah,
Now, were there a number of Americans there?
not right there.
You get any food?
No. This is just the first night.
Yeah, I see. Just
Then the next morning, then they took us over to away from there anyway, and there I met some of my other boys that were,
I see.
and not just my company, but there's quite a few then.
Sure. That they had.
Yeah.
What'd they do with you then?
Then they took us. They had a camp there for prisoners of war there. It was a sort of a transient camp. They just put us in this stockade, and there was a lot of British soldiers in there, and Americans. And that was there wasn't much to eat there, because it was just behind the lines, and
To give you water?
yeah, there was water, and
What about the clothing? Were you wearing your army clothing?
yeah.
Had they taken off the stripes or anything, or were there officers in that camp too?
Yeah, there was. I can't remember any American officers,
Oh.
but there was some British officers in there.
I see.
Because I know that there was
Now you're getting up in northern Italy now, aren't you?
not too far north yet.
Not too far. I see.
No, this is.
Well, what happened then?
Oh, we stayed there a couple of weeks. Then they loaded us up in trucks and hauled us clear up to Germany. It took about 4 days. In fact, I went through Rome before our troops went through it.
You went. I see. Before the Americans.
Yeah. And some of those.
How did they on this truck now? Were they crowded in there? Or
Oh yeah. It was.
did you get any food or water
No,
or rest or anything?
They gave us a little bit of something.
Yeah.
We got a little piece of bread or part of a loaf of bread.
You ever getting any soup or anything on that trip?
Not on the trip, no. It
No.
was in that camp we did, and then after we get up into Germany, then they.
When you went into Germany, where did you go then?
Well, that was a regular POW camp there.
You don't know the number of it or name.
No, I don't. I
No.
don't remember what that was. We didn't stay there too long.
Were they Americans or all nationalities in that camp?
Pretty much all nationalities, yeah. Mostly British and Americans.
Was it a pretty big camp?
Yeah, it was a big camp, yeah.
1,000 people or?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it must have been more than that.
Yeah.
Then we were loaded into trains and boxcars. And they hauled us clear up to the northeast corner of Germany. We were about 10 miles from the Polish border and about 40 miles from the North Sea. And that's where we really suffered, because it was cold. And
You don't remember if that was in East Prussia? or was it? It was in Germany.
We were still in Germany.
Yeah. You hadn't gone into Poland.
No, no.
You don't remember the name of Stettin or something like that, or Danzig?
Well, this is
Strasbourg?
Hammerstein
Hammerstein, I
was
see. Yeah.
the name of the town. There's Stalag 2B.
That was a big camp.
That was a big camp, yeah.
And you were in there.
Yeah. There
And how long were you there?
Oh, I must have been there for from February to about April, a couple of months. And we were all non-coms. I was a corporal then.
Yeah.
And one day they came through that barracks and said, "Well, you guys are going to go to work or else." See, according to Geneva Conventions, we weren't supposed to work. So it ended up that 16 of us ended up in a farm.
In that area?
Yeah, it was in there someplace. It is.
One of the communes, then, I suppose.
Yeah, that's. I remember we went by train, and then we got to this Hammerstein, and then there was a wagon there. So we got in the wagon, and they hauled us out to this farm. I remember all the German people there were lined up there to see the Americans. They'd never seen Americans before.
I see.
And I think they were kind of disappointed because we really didn't look any different than they did.
No. How many of you Americans were there then on this?
There were 16 of us
16.
on this one particular farm.
Yeah. And you, did you have a barracks there on that farm, or what did you have?
Yeah, they fixed up it was this two-story building, and below there was a carpenter shop and some others, and that place there where they boiled potatoes for the pigs. But we got to go upstairs there, and they had old wooden bunks there.
How long were you there?
Well, I was on that farm must have been there, quite a while. Till February, anyway. We left.
45.
Yeah. And we left there during, I suppose, in the spring of 44 or something. Yeah, so it's out on that farm for quite a while.
What did you do on the farm?
Regular farm work.
Right.
It was different from ours, though.
Yeah. Now, you had a boss with you out there in the field, I suppose.
Yeah.
What did they raise? Potatoes and beets?
They raised potatoes and rye and some vegetables. First thing we did, my first job went out to hoe potatoes.
You were pretty good at it, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I could sock the hoe down there and pull the weed back. It wouldn't even tip over. And
well, most of those Americans, they weren't the best. I mean, they could do it, but they weren't the speediest people.
Right.
Those guards weren't necessarily too excited either, were they? Or?
No, we just had one army guard.
Yeah.
They'd assign on the farm there was women and old men and a few kids there. There wasn't too many.
Running the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of you trying to escape, or do you was just no use, or?
Well, we had they shipped in three boys that come in there, and they weren't going to stay. So we saved up a little food, whatever we could for them, and if they wanted to go, they could go. And so one night they did. Before they locked us up, they got out, and they weren't going very long because I don't know, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, here come the guard with them 3 boys all tied up and woke us up and says, "See, this is what happens when you try to escape."
Sure.
Now, it's just so far from any place that.
Yeah. What kind of food did you have when you were on this farm?
Well, the farm was, like I say, they raised potatoes, so we get some. Always snitch a few potatoes, and a couple of guys milk cows, so they could get a little milk now and then. And
did you prisoners take care of your own food?
oh yeah. Then every once in a while we would get a Red Cross parcel,
I see.
and that was kind
Now,
of.
were there many farms around this area, or was this the only farm that you knew of? Or
No, to their standards, I guess it was a big farm, but
yeah,
to me, to us guys that were farmers, it wasn't all that big.
No.
But yeah, there was several farms around, and they,
did they thrash the grain there on the farm?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't get in on the planting, but we got in on the harvest of the rye. And they had two binders there. One was a McCormick Deering,
I see.
I remember, and one was their own make. I don't know what. So they harvest this rye and cut it in
Sure.
bundles, and we had to shock it. And,
How long were you there?
well, whenever I got there, and
Well, I mean, once there was a year. Were the Russians coming now from the east, or were you?
well,
what made you move?
they did eventually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why did you move from there?
because they were coming,
They were coming,
yeah,
and you started marching
marching, yeah.
west.
Hmm.
Now, how was that when you did they line you all up or take you out as a group, or?
Well, they took us 16 guys, and we to another farm. There was a lot of them there, and then they kept picking them up as
I
they
see.
went there. There was got to be some around 1,000 or better
And you were marching west.
west. Really, they didn't. Well, to start with, we marched west and north.
Yeah, I
In
see.
fact, we got clear up with the North Sea there. At one time, you could just about see the ocean.
Yeah.
Then they started going more south.
What about food on this journey now?
Well,
What time of the year was this? Was summer?
No, it was winter.
Winter.
Winter, yeah. We started in January, and
Must have been kind of a cool time of the year to be sleeping out in the snow or wherever you
well,
slept.
they tried to get us in barns and
Yeah.
stuff there, but most of the time those barns are filthy, but it is better than being outside. And then 3 or 4 of us to try to get there. So we had a blanket apiece, try to get 3 or 4 of us together so we could kind of keep warm and share our blankets. And
Now, how many were there in this group that were marching? You say maybe 1,000, you say?
well, I had, then they sort of put us into smaller groups then, and
Yeah.
I had, I had 10 guys that I was with myself that I was, if they ever had any rations or anything to give us, well, then I would go and get it.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we'd get a loaf of bread or something. And now
How were the guards how did they treat you on this trip when you were marching?
Well, they were all old fellers, and they had to walk.
Pretty much the same position you guys were
They
in.
pretty much, only they didn't have to walk all day long. I mean, they could change off.
Yeah.
And of course, they got a little more food, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was,
Well, how did this journey end now? How far did you go? Or where did you end up?
well, we ended up by the Elbe River.
Oh, yeah.
That was about 600 miles from where we started.
Oh, gee. Well, what time of the year did you get there then, or when? You don't remember just when you got to the Elbe?
In April
45.
45. I got liberated on the Friday, the 13th of April, 1945.
At the Elbe River.
Yeah, the day after President Roosevelt died.
I see. Well, now was your unit, that unit of, you were talking about maybe 1,000 people, was that still intact when you got to the Elbe?
No, I don't know how many, or what happened to them, those that fell out. Well, everybody had dysentery and
Yeah.
and lousy, and it is horrible.
Did the guards ever shoot anyone that you knew of?
I didn't ever see anybody, but
You've
I
heard
never,
of it.
the guys that fell out, I never saw them after
No.
that either.
No.
Sometimes they'd put them on a wagon, and let them
Yeah.
at the end of the line there and haul them, but
Did you see many trucks or tractors there, or was it mostly horses and oxen and so on?
Mostly horses and oxen, yeah.
Yeah.
There was, on this farm I was on, they had a one-cylinder tractor.
One cylinder?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it didn't,
Did you ever run into those tractors or trucks that would burn wood?
oh yeah, yeah,
You know, they
yeah.
burned the wood and then took the gas off the wood and piped that into the carburetor, kind of
Yeah.
a haywire outfit that didn't move very fast. How was your health now on this trip? How do your legs and things stand up?
Well, health-wise, it's pretty bad. I mean, it is, with dysentery, everybody was losing weight, and we were getting awful weak.
You were.
There at one point, we got to an airport, and they said we were supposed to work there a little bit. They gave us the shovel and they had little tracks laid out there with little carts, kind of like coal mine
Yes?
carts, and we were supposed to load them with dirt and then they would haul them over someplace, but we hardly ever made one of them carts a day. We just couldn't.
No.
And we got bombed a couple of times.
By Americans or British?
By Americans. But I don't know, they must have known we were there because they never did touch our barracks.
I see.
So I think they knew we were there.
Do you remember that? Now, that big camp you were at there in northeastern Germany, what is the name of that or number? Do you
That was
remember?
Stalag 2B.
2B.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, did you, when you left that, you kept on going until you got to the Elbe, is that right?
Yeah, well, see, we were out in the farm. They took us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were out the farm
They
first.
took
yeah.
us from there, took us to the
Yeah.
farm, and then we
Yeah.
just left from that farm.
How did you get along on the farm with the other worker, with the Germans?
We got along real good because it is just, like say, old men and some women.
Yeah.
There was 2 Russian women there
Yeah.
and 1 Polish girl that were in there. I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
They were just forced labor.
What did you think about the war at that time when you were on this march and you were going towards after you left the farm?
Well,
I mean, did you have any information as to what the war was doing or how the war was going?
well, I think we kind of knew it must have been going kind of bad when
Yeah.
the Russians were coming, the way the Russians are
Yeah,
coming
sure.
in. And that's where we can be thankful we never have any wars over here, because ahead of these Russians were the German and the Polish refugees. They were
Yeah.
coming down the road there past that farm in wagons, walking, trying to, with what little they could carry or haul. And sometimes they'd stop at the farm there and try to steal some hay for their horses. And I woke up one morning, they had me milking cows there for a week or so. And I come out in the milk barn there that one day, and it had just covered with people sleeping in there.
Oh.
And
These were civilians that were
yeah,
moving.
right. And so I was sitting there trying to milk, and this one little girl, she was just probably 4 or 5 years old, a really pretty little girl, come with her little cup, wanted some milk. She got some milk. Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, that just...
Well, on that march like that too, I think water was a factor, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
clean.
well, see, that's where the dysentery and stuff come in,
Sure.
because some guys tried to drink out of, anything, and it is best to wait till we got to some farm or something. And
Well, what happened now when you got to the Elbe? You said that you were liberated then. What happened? Can you explain what happened?
well, the last day, we used to stop, for the night till probably like, say, 5, 6 o'clock at night.
Sure.
Well, this particular day, we were going, and by golly, pretty soon it's getting dark, and we were still going. And then they stopped, and of course, as soon as you stop, then everybody just laid down.
Yeah.
In fact, I went to sleep. And then here come one of the guys, and he said, well, our guards are gone. Guards have left us. So we we backtracked a ways in through a town that we'd come through, and we got in some barns and hid in there. Because we knew that we were close to the American front. And we were afraid the Germans that were coming back, might not be too
But you were
too
kind of
pleased
on
to
your
see
own
us.
then for a while.
So we laid low there. And we stayed there overnight. And the next day, a little Piper Cub artillery observer come flying over there. And so a couple of guys went out and we flagged him down. And he actually landed there. And he says, well, you guys just wait here. He says, there's a tank division or unit back there, and I'll let them know. And then he come back and started flying over us again. And he said, tanks. And we didn't know if it was German tanks or American tanks or what. But anyway, here come a couple SS officers, and they said, you go, boys, get on the road, get going again. But then about that time, it was our tanks
I see.
got there. And the first thing they did, they just started throwing out whatever rations they had, and man,
Everyone died for them, huh?
we went to town for them. Boy.
Now, then what happened now is, was it hours or days or something else happened, I suppose, there's a sequence there.
Yeah, these tank units, and they took us back to a town, and they just told the Germans in there, the civilians, they said, everybody moved to the other side of the street, and we took over their houses. And
I see.
so we slept in there, and I should have seen some of the things there. One guy went out and he picked I suppose it was a 14-quart pail, filled it up with eggs and boiled them. All works. There were some sick boys there for a while, because I mean that was.
Did you use your language? Could you speak a little Russian?
Yeah,
Or German?
Yeah,
Did that help you out?
not with the Germans. We learned German because
Yeah, you were there long enough to. Yeah.
we learned German, but I could talk with these Russian girls a little bit,
Yeah.
and they. I don't know just how they got there, but they were from different areas
This was on that farm.
on the farm. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you converse a little German with the guards?
Oh yeah.
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 Did that help you? You feel?
Well, they wouldn't talk English, and we had to get
Sure.
talk somehow, communicate some way.
Yeah. Now, after you were liberated, now that you talk about these tanks coming in and throwing this food or whatever it was, what happened then? After you were liberated?
Well, they took us back to this town, then, and we
Yeah.
stayed there.
yeah.
And then they finally hauled us over to an airport, and we got on. I had a.
You don't remember the airport or the town?
No, I don't.
And they flew you where to?
To Le Havre,
To Le Havre.
Le Havre,
Were you at
France,
Camp Lucky Strike?
I was.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah.
Well, you're. Of course, who hasn't been there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was quite a camp too. Now, did you? How was your health when you arrived, say, at Camp Lucky Strike?
Well, it was pretty poor there. It was,
Yeah.
I suppose, I don't know. I suppose I was down to, I don't know, 125 or something. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
But you were up and around all the time.
Oh yeah.
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 You got clothes, clean clothes, and
Yeah.
all
Well,
those.
the first thing they run us.
How long were you stay at Camp Lucky Strike?
Not very long.
Oh.
It was probably a week or so.
Yeah. You ate there and pretty good,
Oh yes.
and then how did they get you out of Camp Lucky Strike? Did you go on a steamship or a Liberty boat or what?
They put us aboard a ship there. It was. I don't remember the name of that one.
The Army had a lot of ships, Army
Yeah.
troop transport ships.
This really wasn't an original troop transport.
No.
It was a kind of a converted.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest share of the boys on that were North Dakota boys.
Oh, they were?
They tried to keep us together by state like that.
Yeah. How many were there on that ship?
I don't know.
I mean, was it hundreds or? Well, of course, you wouldn't really know because.
No, I don't.
But you ate there and so on. Did you have any details on the ship?
no,
no.
we didn't. We didn't have to.
No. Now, where'd you go? Where did the ship take you?
Newport News, Virginia.
Newport. And after you got off there, then did you have any more? Did you have a physical, or
Oh,
did
yeah,
they
yeah,
give you some money?
yeah, we got a little money, and then they give us 60 days delay en route.
Yeah.
To-
But you left when you left Newport. You went right to up to North Dakota. Then.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now your folks, did they get any letters from you when you were in camp
Yeah,
in Germany?
yeah, we finally got so that we could write a certain number of letters home. And,
Did they get them?
yeah, they got some of them.
Did you get any letters from
Yeah,
them?
I got quite a
I
few
see.
letters.
Well, I mean, that's
My
generally better than most prisoners didn't get
yeah,
them.
yeah, my mother would. Well, I guess she had several people writing to me. Some of my
Sure. Oh, I see. Yeah.
aunts and my sister would write.
Did you get any food sent to you in parcels from home?
I never did get any from my folks. They sent some,
Yeah.
but I never did get them.
No. Now, did you go back to Tioga, or when you
Well,
left?
I went back to Plaza. I was still,
Plaza, yeah.
or I mean Whitehurst.
Whitehurst.
Excuse me. My folks had moved after I'd got the
Whiter,
service.
is that
Right next door to Tioga.
yeah? It's kind of down the valley.
In
there,
the valley,
where
yeah.
the river there going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that was Whitehurst was a community before Tioga. I
Right,
believe.
right.
Yeah, my dad was out there.
Yeah.
Homesteaded. I remember the word Whitehurst. Well, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
What'd you do then when you got to Plaza after the war? You get married right away, or?
No. I got home at 45. I didn't get married till 51.
Oh, gee, yeah. What'd you do then when you got back?
Pardon?
What'd you do when you got back to Plaza then? Did you start farming again, or?
Yeah, this is at Whitehurst there. See,
Yeah, later, yeah.
yeah, my dad thought that. Well, he just thought that I should farm, and so I started farming. He had the cattle, and I put the crop in.
Yeah. With 2 quarters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. He had more than that.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, at Whitehurst he got 6 quarters down there. So it was,
I see.
yeah.
Do you have any land out there now that
Yeah.
you own?
I still got that farm.
Oh, you still have
Yeah.
the farm?
Yeah. We still do. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, now it's been bad farming the last few years. I don't suppose you got rich the last few
No,
years. No. But you still own it. You still got it clear.
It's leased out now. I've had it leased,
Yeah, sure.
leased for many years.
But you own the land clear. I mean,
Right,
it's not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to leave it for the kids.
Yeah. Now, when were you married, you say?
51.
51, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where was your wife from?
She was from Whitehurst.
White Earth, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was she Russian
No.
background too?
No, she no.
She's
She's mostly Swede.
Swede. Oh, yeah.
Half Swede.
I see. Yeah. Well, that's a good combination, I guess. Russian, Swede, yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. Are there any Ukrainian organizations here in North Dakota and so on, or Russian, or
Yeah, there's. I think at Dickinson they have.
yeah? They talk about that Hungarian. Isn't that a Hungarian organization they have there at Dickinson where they meet every month or so? Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. I think George Ostwick used to tell me.
It's called a Hungarian Inn. I don't know whether
Yeah, I guess that's the reason that
if it's actually Hungarian or not, but there are some
Yeah.
Ukrainians around there that they have every year they have something.
Now you had one daughter, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, is she still
No,
living?
no, I have one sister.
Oh, one sister, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she died in 50.
Oh yeah, but you did have a family now. But they're living, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I had 5.
Did they show a picture of that? I think they showed a picture
They
of
had
that. Yeah.
5 in my family.
5, yeah. How are they doing?
They're doing well. I mean,
Doing
they're-
well.
Yeah, they're
Their health is pretty good and so on.
they're doing.
How's your
fine.
wife's health then?
Oh, she's has her ups and downs.
Yeah.
She got
Well, of course, after you know,
just
I have my ups and downs too, and I suppose you've had your ups and downs.
You just wear
too.
out.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about these young people today compared to the young people you knew back there in high school in Plaza and so on? I mean, you see them today, and
Well, yeah, we say.
what do you think?
Well, I don't know. Looking at my kids, I think they're okay. I mean, if it come down to the crisis or something, I think
Yeah.
they'd come through just as well as anybody.
Well, you know, one thing, of course, they're a lot smarter than we were.
Well,
Better schooling and so on, and stronger. And
well, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, they have a lot more money than I did,
yeah,
which is, I don't know if it's good or bad.
no. And they're all of your children are doing fairly well then? Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So,
Yeah, I'm proud of them.
yeah.
They're all doing good. And,
Now, if you were going to live your life over again, what would you do different?
well, I don't know. That's,
Probably do the same thing.
where I should, where I would even start.
No. Well, I've asked that question to a lot of people, and most people, of course, they say, well, probably I'd do the same thing again.
I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what else
Yeah,
is there?
yeah.
You could do something else, but that could very well be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, another thing, I think that the ex-prisoners of war, I think they're a very loyal group, you know. I mean, that I don't mean they necessarily join all kinds of organizations, but I think they're loyal to their country.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
And I know I've talked to several, and they said that if they had to do it over again, you know, if it was for their country or for their family, they'd probably go back to prison camp if
Oh,
it was for their
absolutely.
benefit.
well, after being a POW and you lose your freedom,
Yeah.
then you know what freedom means.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
'Cause
Well, that's right. I mean, that's one of the big
that's,
things, of course. Yeah.
And we are free.
Yeah.
I mean, we think we aren't.
Yeah. How is the state of North Dakota or the Veterans Administration treated you since you got out of the service, we'll say?
Well, it's been pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, sometimes it seems like it takes a lot longer than it
Oh, yeah,
should and this and that, but I suppose they're like everything else, they're backlogged and of course, budget cuts and all this
Sure.
and that. Why
But I mean, the relationship has been,
yeah, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, it's been
you've gotten
all right.
you've gotten bonus from the state, maybe a little
Yeah, yeah,
benefit of the
Yeah.
license plate.
yeah, right. Yeah, I appreciate all that. That's
Yeah. And you can go to the VA down at Fargo if you get sick, if you want to.
oh yeah, yeah.
Do they have a sort of a little clinic at Minot or Bismarck that you've attended or gone to?
I haven't gone to them. They have an outpatient one in
Yeah.
in Bismarck, and then you can at the Air Force Base Hospital there in Wynot.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But I've never tried
No,
that. I mean,
no,
it's
no.
well, it's just outpatient.
Well,
if you,
sure.
If you had something serious,
Yeah.
you'd have to go to Fargo
Yeah.
anyway. So.
Well, most people have insurance, and
Yeah.
and they're private insurance. What would you like to say now before you leave today, Arnold? You gave us a nice, real interesting story about your life and what you happened and where you went and your prisoner of war, how that fit in there. And,
Well, I guess I'd have to say I think I and probably a lot of others had a little alcohol problem when we got out.
Yeah.
And I know I think my wife probably put up with quite a bit,
yeah.
and but she stayed with me, which I'm.
How long have you been married?
Oh, it's getting on to 50 years in 2001.
Oh, gee, well, that's pretty darn good. You know, I asked one guy, I can't remember his name now, but he was a professor down here at Morehead State, see? And I said, well, what do you have to say about these young people today? And he was POW too. And he said, well, they're just as smart as we were, and they're just as loyal, and they're just as this and that, you know. But he says there's one goddamn thing they can't spell when they get to college. He was an English teacher.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he said that's the only bad thing I have against these kids, they can't spell.
Well. Yeah.
Yep. So, Well, you got your land leased out now then, or you got a CRP, or do you have CRP out there? I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I used
You don't do any actual farming now yourself.
No.
Do your kids do any farming?
No.
No.
No, there wasn't enough there for, when they could have started, well, I didn't have enough to take care of
No.
myself and them both, so.
Yeah.
And I kind of encouraged them not to farm because, I don't know, it is getting to
Well,
be
it's
a
tough, yeah. Well, it's been
tough
tough
road
these
to
last
hoe
years,
in
yeah.
it. And they're doing a lot better than,
Well, we want to thank you, Arnold, for taking the time to come here, and I hope it's been worthwhile, see?
well, yeah.
Because this may be the first time you really kind of went through your whole story. And your story, of course, is just as important. I mean, being a prisoner of war is one of the unique experiences of life. And these television programs we're setting up here, incidentally, these are the only ones in the United States.
Well,
So these headquarters and so on are quite anxious to get all these stories and so on. But I'm not giving them out unless they're for a good reason. See?
Oh, yeah.
And you yourself, of course, get the primary purpose of it because it's the ex-POWs that are important. It's not, but the Andersonville and so on are quite interested in. Well, different ones are written me and asked me. So I hope you have a nice trip back, and
okay, we will.
and I know that I got to thank the university here for putting up all this apparatus here to take these pictures and films.
Quite a setup.
Yeah, you bet. It's one of those things you only run into once in your lifetime, and now it's well worth your while. See,
Yeah.
So thanks an awful lot, Arnold.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yep.
Within my heart, I know I will never start to smile again until I smile at you.